The storm surrounding Caitlin Clark has only grown louder with every game she steps onto the court, every long-range shot she drains, every arena she fills to capacity. Her arrival in the WNBA wasn't just another rookie story. It was a event, the kind of cultural shift that transforms an entire league overnight. And with that transformation came tension. Real tension from players who had been in the trenches for years, watching a newcomer take the spotlight by force. Some call it competitiveness. Some call it jealousy. Some call it the reality of a league suddenly thrust under a blinding national spotlight. Whatever the explanation, the atmosphere around Clark has become one of both admiration and intimidation, a push-pull dynamic, where players respect her talent but resent the attention she commands. Because the truth is undeniable. When Clark shoots from the logo with effortless range, when she forces defenders to pick her up at 30 feet, she changes everything about how a game feels. And for many players in the league, it has been jarring. They don't like that every headline features her name. They don't like that every road game becomes a sellout because fans want to see her play. They don't like that sneaker companies are fighting over her with deals that dwarf nearly every contract in league history. So when opponents shove her, when they try to rough her up or throw her off her rhythm, they see it as basketball, as intimidation, as prevention, as their only chance to make her hesitate for even a second. To them, it's strategy. But to the world watching, it feels personal. And behind the scenes, a much bigger narrative has been unfolding. One that could alter the entire structure of the WNBA, depending on how much truth lies beneath the surface. Reports have been circulating online, whispered in insider circles, repeated across social media, claiming that Herbert Simon, the billionaire who owns both the Indiana Pacers and the Indiana Fever, walked into a closed-door meeting with executives and made a declaration that stunned everyone in the room. According to the rumors, he told them plainly that the Indiana Fever now belonged to Caitlin Clark. Not symbolically, not in the vague sense of a franchise building around a star, but officially, organizationally, from the top down. If the reports were true, it would be one of the most significant power statements in WNBA history. But before diving into what may have been said behind those private doors, it's important to understand who Herbert Simon is, and why his involvement carries so much weight. At 90 years old, Simon is one of the most seasoned and influential owners in American sports. Born in Brooklyn in 1934, he and his brother built the Simon Property Group into a real estate empire worth billions. His net worth now sits above $5 billion, and he has been the longest-tenured owner in the NBA since purchasing the Pacers back in 1983. He saved that franchise from collapse and kept it thriving for decades. When the WNBA expanded into Indianapolis in 1999, Simon made sure the city embraced a women's team as well. The Fever have existed because he believed they should exist. For years, the franchise had its moments: a championship in 2012, several deep playoff runs, and the iconic era of Tamika Catchings. But attention was modest, national coverage was limited, and the Fever rarely shaped the broader narrative of the W. Then came April 2024. With the #1 overall pick, they selected Caitlin Clark, and in one night, everything changed. Every ticket to every game became the hottest commodity. The Fever broke attendance records they didn't even have the capacity to imagine before. 16 of their 20 home games sold out, and teams hosting Indiana were so overwhelmed by demand that they moved games to NBA arenas. It wasn't just basketball anymore, it was a phenomenon. With that kind of momentum, it wasn't surprising that ownership began reshaping the entire organization. Whether Simon explicitly walked into a meeting and declared the team belonged to Clark, or whether the shift happened subtly over months of planning, the Fever were being rebuilt brick by brick. When social media claimed that Simon told his staff to center everything around Clark decisions, roster moves, developmental strategies, even long-term planning, the rumor spread quickly. Some even said he referred to the franchise internally as Caitlin Clark's team, but there has been no confirmation. No major outlet has verified the meeting. The Fever haven't commented, and Simon has remained silent. What we do know is far more concrete. Before the 2025 season began, the Fever's front office changed dramatically. Kelly Krauskopf, a longtime architect of the franchise, returned to oversee both basketball and business operations. Amber Cox was hired as the new coup and general manager. And, perhaps most importantly, Stephanie White returned as head coach. White wasn't just a familiar face, she was a former Fever player, a respected leader, and a coach with a proven record of winning. Her return symbolized stability, experience, and a connection to Indiana's basketball identity. Then the biggest investment of all was announced. A $78 million training facility scheduled to open in 2027, a massive 3-story complex with state-of-the-art training rooms, medical centers, and full-scale courts. For years, WNBA teams operated with far less. This was something different, something bold, something built for the future. Investments of that scale don't come without a deeper vision. Whether or not Simon used dramatic phrases in a meeting, the actions speak clearly. The Indiana Fever were being reshaped from their foundation upward. Of course, with changes come tensions. Rumors online claimed friction between White and the front office over Clark's influence. Yet nothing publicly supports that idea. White consistently praised her players and spoke proudly about their resilience. The only real moment that hinted at conflict came when Dana Bonner left the team mid-season, eventually being traded after citing personal reasons. But her departure remained loosely defined, and nothing tied it directly to Clark. The 2025 season brought even more challenges. Clark, known for her durability and iron-willed competitiveness, suffered injury after injury: groin, quad, ankle, limiting her to just 13 games. For a player who once seemed indestructible, the setbacks were shocking. But even without their superstar for most of the year, the Fever pushed into the playoffs, stunned the dream, and dragged the reigning champion Aces into a winner-take-all Game 5. They came within inches of the WNBA Finals. It proved something vital. This team had real talent, real structure, and real resilience. So when we return to those whispered reports about Simon, the picture becomes clearer. Whether he said those specific words or not, the Fever's actions have already confirmed the direction of the franchise. They drafted a generational talent. They rebuilt their leadership. They invested unprecedented money into facilities. They committed to a long-term vision. The Fever are not simply adding Clark to an existing structure. They are transforming that structure around her. The question now becomes what this transformation means for the future. If the Fever are designing everything around their star, the benefits could be enormous. Clark's input could shape the roster. The system could be tailored to her strengths. Veterans might flock to Indianapolis, seeing an opportunity to compete for championships alongside a player who changes the entire geometry of the court. For the WNBA, this model could redefine how franchises treat superstar talent. If it succeeds, it could influence how teams build around marquee players for decades to come. But it also brings pressure. It puts weight on Clark, on White, on every player who puts on an Indiana uniform. Building around one athlete can be brilliant or risky. Only time will tell whether this path leads to championships or complications. Now, it's your turn. Do you think the Indiana Fever should build their entire future around Caitlin Clark? Would you put this much trust and this many resources into a single player? Share your thoughts below. And if you want more in-depth breakdowns, behind-the-scenes stories, and dramatic coverage of women's basketball, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next.